Hey, what's good, party people? Late night streaming. See how it goes with it. See if see how many show up for a little late night get together. Wish I had a fire crackling right now. I need one, man. Need a little fireside chat. You know what it is. Outrage TV. Last few minutes of January 7th, 2019. Just got back from the Fourth Wall Comedy Club here. We're chilling out and sipping a little vino with the Outrage crew. Let's share that on Facebook. Probably gonna go to the gym after this and tear it up, see what I can get done. All right, we all share that on Facebook. What's good, party people? Let's get some vape protesting in here so we can get some people populated. Got a few things to talk about here. We can talk about Donald Trump addressing the nation from the Oval Office tomorrow. I'm gonna have a little presidential check-in there, you know. A little grandstanding for the wall. Can't be mad at that. I'm gonna talk about a sketch idea that I've talked about with the Outrage crew before, and I'll throw it out there, see if I can't riff it out a little bit and figure something out. This called "World Without White People." If some SJWs dropped some acid and had a fantasy about what the world would be like without all these evil white people fucking everything up. Talk about the Golden Globes a little bit. I didn't watch it, but I saw some strange highlights of apparently they were administering a little vaccine love to the people in attendance there, and we talk about vaccines and all that goofy bullshit, and then might get into the idea of never pursuing women because it never works out for you. You let women come to you and just be the best version of you that you can be. Just a little lifestyle idea we can work out a little bit that I have some wisdom I've come upon in my 28 years on this earth, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, what's good? See if I can. This might be a little too late to come on the stream because I know it's 2:30 in the morning, East Coast. Oh, what up, Archer? Glad it's not too late for somebody. Big boss man Archer, he's out there. He's been shooting arrows all day, fucking hitting bullseyes. And he didn't give a fuck. He's on the late night stream. Cheers to you, my brother. I was just running down the little list of things I had to talk about. We're going to talk about the God Emperor Donald Trump giving a little Oval Office address tomorrow night. Sure to be compelling television. And, you know, the only man responsible for the continuance of the mainstream media's ratings, Mr. Donald Trump there, but it doesn't stop him from trashing him. Yeah, Orange Man bad except for your ratings on the mainstream media. It's like, if they didn't have Donald Trump to talk about, I mean, they probably already would have went under the weight of the internet where people get their news and whatnot. But they get people in lesbian haircuts up on fancy looking sets, and they scream incessantly about that the orange man bad, and apparently it's spellbinding television there that people can't get enough of. The only time I really see CNN is when I go to the gym. They have it on most of the TVs in there, which is, at the gym and at the airport. That's when I see. No one's actually watching CNN. Even, the people on the treadmills, they are kind of set up to face the TV, and they normally would be forced to watch CNN, but most of them wear blindfolds like the Bird Box movie in order to not have to even look at the screen, let alone hear it. They just wear their headphones and they wear a blindfold or two pirate patches for their eyes so that they don't have to see Don Lemon's face. And I don't blame them. It's actually very commendable. I want to live in a world where they play InfoWars on all the TVs and don't play music in the gym. They play the audio of InfoWars. And nothing would get you fired up for your workout like Alex Jones railing against the globalists and the pedophiles there. The T-Rex of political talk, getting all fired up, talking about fluoride in the water as you refill your water bottle there at the gym through the water fountain, which probably getting a decent dose of fluoride there. But you work out hard and you sweat the fluoride out, and hopefully you'll live past 50. You hit a 200-meter shot off a draw. You hit a 200-meter shot off a draw shot hip fire. Now that's some insider terminology there, and I don't know. It does seem very impressive. I have no technical skill when it comes to hunting, anything of that sort. I've had a pellet gun before. I've had a BB gun, and I have not taken the lives of any animals, and I feel like that makes me a superior moral human being. I would if I had somebody who knew what they were doing, that would take me hunting. I would probably go in a heartbeat. Like, I didn't want to go when I was younger. My uncle and my grandpa were always trying to convince me to go. I went hunting with my grandpa one time, but that he was too old to even walk around and actually go like traditionally hunt. So what we did instead was rode around looking for quail in his truck in the snow in the backwoods of Oklahoma, and we eventually found some on my side of the truck, and he decided to lean across me and quote, "Show me how it's done. I'm gonna show you how it's done, Junior." He was a super like West Virginia hillbilly motherfucker, my grandpa on my mom's side, and he showed me how it was done, and it being shooting a window out of your own truck. That's what happened. And I was showered in glass, and unforgettable hunting memories there. That's the only time I've actually been hunting. And after that, we got lost in the snow, and my mother was very worried about me, but it all worked out in the end. Like a cowboy, how they draw in hip fire. Oh, you got that hip fire archery, son. That's pretty gangster. Be out in front of the saloon after a motherfucker accuses you of gambling at the poker game, and you just whip out that crossbow. I don't know if you're a crossbow or a longbow shooter. I'd imagine it'd have to be crossbow. If you got one of those elven longbows, you can't shoot that hip fire. That'd be a little awkward. You'd have to have like a third arm coming out of your back, out of your shoulder blade there. Archer says he hunts rabbits. First time I went rabbit hunting, I took a rifle that was way too big. I hit the jackrabbit and turned it into pink mist. The rabbit meat is delicious. My grandpa introduced me to some rabbit meat. he invited me to come into the kitchen and participate in the skinning of the carcass of the rabbit, which I wanted absolutely no part of. But he did provide me with some delicious rabbit thigh. And man, that was just tasty as a motherfucker. And another thing he introduced me into, frog legs. If you ever get a chance to try some frog legs, tremendous. All right, you would not expect it, but frog and rabbit are kind of similar. It's like a real like tender, like just gave me enough to be extra flavorful type of chicken. You know, I dig me some rabbit meat. I haven't had that shit in a long time, man. But yeah, that was. I like it like buffalo wings. Ooh, shit. You got you some rabbit leg there, boy. Yeah, buddy. Yeah, I like that. That's eventually, I want to have a situation where I have like a nice apartment in LA and or a condo or whatever, and then I have my vacation ranch that I would have in like Colorado or some shit, where I have like a vegetable garden and like some Ted Nugent type shit. It might even be in Texas, like where I can just buy up some land and have some wildlife out there that I just, keep it sustainable. Go out there and hunt, and have me some generators, a lot of water and a lot of bullets and gasoline just in case the apocalypse hits, Because, oh, he says he doesn't fish though. It's too brutal. I got a hook caught in my lip once and it hurt so bad. God, how do you get a hook caught in your own lip? That's the exact opposite of what you're supposed to be doing, bruh. I mean, I've fucked up with some fishing hooks. My dad was real into fishing and he would always take me fishing, but we never had a boat, so we would always have to fish from the bank, which is always sketchy. It's always a sketchy move to be fishing from the bank because if you're not used to throwing that cast out there, man, you get a bad cast, it might come up and skip off the back of your head. It might get caught in a tree. If you don't pull it up out of the water soon enough before it hits the bank, you're gonna get it caught in the moss. And we didn't use the live bait. My dad had these cute little fucking lures he would always buy. He always, like, before we went fishing, had a new cool lure. And he would always make the mistake of letting me use it. And I would inevitably get it caught up in a tree or in the fucking moss. And it was a disaster, dude. I caught some decent fish in my day, though. I caught a stingray one time off the pier in South Carolina, dude. My dad didn't know what the fuck to do, how to get that off the hook. It was all flopping around, and he almost went out like Steve Irwin, dude, trying to get that thing off the line. South Carolina's cool. We went vacationing in Myrtle Beach one time. My nephew tossed the line. He was only like 4 years old. Oh shit! I thought you hooked yourself with your lip in your lip. That would have been goddamn impressive. That's an impressive failure to hook yourself in the lip. But yeah, you got the little 4-year-old out there haphazard with the cast. I see that. One thing I like I haven't caught a fish this way, but my dad's real into kayaking, and every now and then when I go back home, what up, Core View? You've probably seen one of our sketches in the past. That's probably when you signed up or some shit. But yeah, I'm Nick Jordan. I'm using this as a stream channel, and we're getting on here and talking shit about anything and everything, a lot of politics and whatnot, just getting into it. But glad to have you aboard, my friend. But yeah, fishing from a kayak is tremendous because you just like feel like you're sitting right on top of the water. You just gliding, and you can get that cast. There's no tree to hook your lure on. There's no moss out in the middle of the fucking lake. It's pure fishing technique out there. And we go out to Lake Ponca, where I'm from, is Ponca City, Oklahoma. and they got a nice big lake out there. We go out there and push the kayaks in the lake and get our groove on, get our smooth on across the surface of that lake. Archer says, yeah, we were on the beach. I was sitting behind him, macking on a girl, and all this. Oh my God! Now that is just, man, that is the most creative cock blocking from a 4-year-old I have ever heard in my life, dude. That is just, that's impressive. That's one hell of a creative cock block, dude. Oh, man. But that gives you an opportunity to show your toughness. Unless you actually broke down and started crying like I probably would have if I would have got my lip hooked, And then the 4-year-old can impress the chick because look how big of a fish he caught. He caught him a 150-pound archer. At least. I don't know how much you weigh, but then you might have been a record, It might have been a record catch. Yeah, dude. My dad is super into kayak making. He makes his own kayaks, dude. It's pretty crazy. Oh yeah, she felt bad for you. Oh yeah. It's like that scene in Jack Nicholson in Chinatown with Faye Dunaway, where he gets his nose cut up, and then she patches his nose up, and it's all seductive and whatnot. Get a little bit of that first aid loving. Ain't nothing wrong with that, dude. A little first aid loving. Oh, you got to see Chinatown. That's a crazy movie, man. That's probably my favorite performance from Jack Nicholson ever. He's real young and just tour de force in that motherfucker. He's going around California trying to uncover this. It starts out with infidelity. Some chick hires him to follow her husband because she suspects him of cheating on her. And then it gets deeper and deeper into this murder mystery, and then this big government conspiracy with going on in California, and there's all kind of nefarious happenings. But yeah, it's one of Jack Nicholson's best. Who do you miss? You talk about actors? Martin Lawrence. Okay, yeah. He was a little before I started getting into comedy. He blew up right before I started watching. I started getting into comedy watching replays of George Carlin's HBO specials. And what drew me into it, especially, is I was just starting to question Christianity, and my parents were kind of half-ass Catholics, and we'd go to church every other week, whenever they could drag us out of bed. But I was as soon as the internet hit, I was on there researching atheism. That was one of the first things I started getting into, and it was amazing to me to watch George Carlin goof on religion and see my religious parents laughing at it and not able to argue his points. And that was one of the first things that showed me the power of comedy is if you can get people to laugh that disagree with you, way easier than you can get them to concede an intellectual point in an argument. But it almost has the same effect. If you can make a point and make them laugh, it kind of bypasses their cognitive defenses that people normally put up in an argument. And if it's the proof is in the pudding, if you make somebody laugh with a point you're making, then it kind of touches their subconscious, and without them even realizing it, they're agreeing with you. But yeah, Martin, I knew him. The first time I got exposed to Martin probably was shit. But I've gone back and I've watched his stand up specials and shit. But I probably first saw him in Bad Boys with Will Smith. Lost my faith after Sandy. Sandy Hook. It was then I said, nah, you can't protect babies. You either can and didn't, which makes you evil, or you can't, which means you're not a god. Oh, okay, with religion. Yeah, I just have like there's a lot of intellectual arguments that go along with it. Like number one, just basically is the burden of proof. So if you're going to claim that a God exists and the phrase "I believe in God," people treat that like a subjective belief, but it's actually a claim about reality because I believe in God means that you are claiming that out there in the universe a God exists. And that is a gigantic claim to say that there is a deity that created the entire universe and is like continuously interfering in the behaviors and activities of human beings on the planet. Otherwise, prayer is useless. If he doesn't come down and interfere, and if there are no real miracles, if there's no interference, then if he's just a hands-off God, then there's no sense in religion in the first place. But it's a huge claim to say that, number one, we were created by a deity. Number one, the deity exists. Number two, he created the universe that we live in. Number three, he created human beings. Number four, he interferes in the behavior and activities of human beings. Huge claims. So huge claims require huge evidence. So I got no problem with somebody saying that they have faith. You know, they have faith, and that's kind of a subjective emotional thing, and they pair it along with the morality of religion, which is, I got no problem with the morality of religion, Christianity. So if pairing that belief with the morality of Christianity works for you and it helps you, frame your life and give you a structure to live by, perfect. We could be friends and, get along great. Most of the times I would rather have a Christian person than an atheist as my neighbor, for example. But if you then make the step to say, oh, I'm going to try to make logical arguments for the existence of God, then that's a hell of a task that's a hell of an undertaking, because there's no logical basis for the existence of a God, especially the type of God described in the Bible, who is simultaneously all powerful and all knowing, which is it's a little bit tricky and subtle, but it is an inherent contradiction to be all powerful and all knowing at the same time. Like, just check out this example. Okay, so there's a train going along the tracks, and God is watching the train, and he knows that the train is going to go off the tracks. That would fall under the category of all knowing. He knows the future. Okay, so the religious mindset would say, oh, God has the power to be able to stop the train from going off the tracks. That would be all powerful. But if he were to do that, if he were to come down and intervene and stop the train from going off the tracks, that would then invalidate his previous knowledge that the train was going to go off the tracks. If he stopped it, if he went and stopped it, well, then that previous knowledge that he had would then be invalidated. So it's an inherent contradiction to be all-knowing and all-powerful at the same time, omniscient and omnipotent. It's an inherent contradiction. That, along with the burden of proof argument, if you believe in a God, or if you claim that God does exist, well, then that requires a lot of evidence to say he does exist. Archer says, my issue I've always had was how Lucifer is always trying to give humans gifts, and God is always fucking with people, and somehow Lucifer is the evil one. I think the idea with that, the idea with that is like, yeah, Lucifer tries to trick you with, materialism and hedonism and the moment to moment satisfaction with a little vino on a Monday night. We're engaging in Luciferianism here, ladies and gentlemen. No, but for me, it's also the moral contradictions that God gets to be exempt from the moral rules that he creates. So murder is supposed to be wrong, thou shalt not kill, yet God can flood the entire planet and kill everybody except Noah, and that's just fine. Um, it for a moral system to be valid, it needs to be universal, and there cannot be any exceptions to the moral rules. That's the same thing with the government. The government is the exception to the rule that theft is immoral. Um, Theft is wrong for the plebeian citizens there. If the government catches you stealing, now that's horribly wrong, and you're going to pay the piper. But um, it is actually morally good to a statist for the government to violate your property rights and steal from you in the form of taxes. Um, so, yeah, a moral system is not valid if you have exceptions to it. It has to be universal as far as holding people to the standard. Obviously, you're never going to have a perfect utopian world where everybody follows the rules, but in the abstract, for a moral system to be philosophically valid, it has to be universal. And if you haven't, Archer, if you haven't, I don't know if you've ever listened to Stefan Molyneux before. He's brilliant in this territory with secular morality and like outlining a morality that doesn't have anything to do with God and just proving it logically. It's called universally preferable behavior. It's really brilliantly laid out. He's a Canadian philosopher, YouTuber guy, and yeah, he is. Yeah, he's tremendous. Oh yeah, and I love his call-in shows and how he breaks down relationships between people. And it was hilarious when he went on Joe Rogan and Joe Rogan called him a cult leader for saying that, like, if you make the arguments to people who believe in a government system, and if you make the arguments that taxation is immoral, and what it fundamentally comes down to, if like it's against my conscience to pay taxes or do something that a piece of legislation orders me to do, if I don't do that, and does the other person support me being thrown in a cage for following my conscience? Like, that is a good metric for determining like how propagandized somebody is, and how like whether or not they can actually be an honest, reliable type of person that you would want to keep in your life. And Stefan says if they double down and be like, yeah, you deserve to be thrown in a cage for having your own idea of morality that's outside of the government, well, that's a good barometer for determining whether somebody doesn't deserve to be in your circle of friends. And for that argument, Joe Rogan was like, "Whoa, you're advocating that people just separate from their family and friends and over the government, and that's just terrible. And you're a cult leader." And it was so like, it was one of Rogan's biggest SJW moments, dude. There's some times where he just his rationality breaks down, and he has these emotional reactions to people, and he can't get over it. I've been listening to him a lot less lately, but I probably still will tune in when Kanye West goes on Rogan, just because it's going to be a hilarious shit show when they talk about Trump, because that's another area where Rogan is just demented. Anytime somebody brings up Trump, it's all about his personality and his tweets and his demeanor, and how his skin and his hair looks, and what drugs is he taking. And it's nothing about like what Trump is doing, taking on the deep state, or like being a self-funded president, which we've never had, who's a total outsider to the system. There's no discussion of the value of Trump or the value in not having Hillary Clinton, or like that we're not starting any big new wars, and he's trying to improve the economy and shore up the borders. It's like he's just focuses on how wacky his personality is, and like I don't know. That's my barometer for whether or not you can think. If you get caught up in Trump's trolling personality that he does to piss off the left, or whether you look at the actual ideas that are that he's promoting or reinforcing, are the things he's actually doing for the country. I mean, there's a lot more he could do, but God damn if it's not a hell of a lot better than anything Hillary Clinton would have instituted. We probably already would have had an economic collapse, probably some kind of warlike activity with Russia. You know, we would have needed our gasoline, our bullets, and our generators probably already if Hillary was president. Yeah, Rogan's too shallow, afraid to dig deeper. Unless you want to talk about legalizing drugs, yeah, yeah. And he doesn't stand up for people like that were supposedly his friends, like Owen Benjamin or Alex Jones. Sorry, it's my roommate's phone. We quiet the phone down over here. Sorry about that, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, unless you want to talk, he afraid to dig deeper into, and he's a comic. He shouldn't be, expected to, be super philosophical. But it's just how popular it is. I think it's valuable to point out where his shortcomings are in his thinking, because a lot of people like look up to him as some kind of pseudo philosophical hero, and he falls short in multiple areas. But he's also a big reason why I got into nutrition and working out, and why I got into stand-up comedy, and why I'm out here in LA. So, I owe a lot to Rogan. He's given me a lot of entertainment over the years, listening to his podcast and whatnot. But he is a quintessential fence rider. He makes a point to never take a stand on anything, and he's the king of, moral relativism. He won't take a strong moral stand on anything, and he tends to agree with whatever guest is on at the time. And he doesn't. He's not somebody to look to for moral guidance. He's just, his main thing is don't be an asshole or be nice. When there's people like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Bernie Sanders who literally want a communist revolution. There's people like Hillary Clinton who took on a lot of communist ideas, super corrupt, super criminal, and wanted a no-fly zone in Syria, and which essentially means war with Russia. It doesn't help to be nice, all right? You got to point out evil where you see it, or else everything good gets wiped away, and being nice isn't going to help you in that scenario either. So, being nice doesn't recognize the existence of evil in the world, and the responsibility that good people have to point out what's going on, because that's the only way that evil flourishes, if good men do nothing. And that's my biggest criticism of Rogan is, he has such a platform to be able to expose some horrible shit going on, and you can even do it through comedy. I mean, Bill Hicks did that, George Carlin did that, but Rogan instead would just wants to make fun of vegans in his comedy special, and I know he understands a lot of this stuff, but I think he intentionally shies away from a lot of the more important topics, because he doesn't want to cut out a portion of his audience. He just wants to appeal to both sides, play devil's advocate, and be this play this impartial interviewer guy instead of taking a stand on anything and risking alienating part of his audience. And in a purely numbers sense, he has the biggest fucking YouTube show there is, so it's like, well done in that aspect. But if you understand more than what you're pointing out, you're doing a huge disservice to everybody. And withholding that kind of, that's the thing. I don't know if he's intentionally withholding things he understands, or if he just legitimately doesn't understand the bigger points at hand. Oh yeah, Hillary wanted war with Russia. That's why she's still trying to make enemies out of Russia with the whole Trump crap. She's bloodthirsty for nuclear war with Russia. Yeah, it's weird. It's weird that because I think the U.S. just wants to have control of all those Middle Eastern countries, the regimes that control them. They want a piece of those resources, and Russia is working with Syria to not let that happen to them. And the warmongers, the military-industrial complex, they didn't like that at all. And so Hillary's willing to play that hardball gamble with Russia, and that's just, Putin's a gangster, all right? I wouldn't try to play hardball with him in terms of militaristic rolls of the dice there. That's pretty psychotic, which was plainly clear how psychotic she was with the whole Libya scenario. We saw he died. He got a knife shoved up his asshole there on camera, and Hillary thought it was hilarious. And Libya was one of the most successful countries in Africa, but then they toppled Gaddafi, and ISIS took over, and now they have open slave trade in 2019. So, modern slavery brought to you by Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton. And Alex Jones called it years in advance. But he's a conspiracy theorist. He needs banned because, he questioned the official story of Sandy Hook, which makes him a demon, okay? And, YouTube, Facebook, and iTunes understand this, which is why he has been technologically castrated for all of our benefit. Yeah, Russia isn't communist anymore. The Democratic Party in America is way more communist than Russia is now. Russia's pretty much turned into like this capitalist Christian nation, and as corrupt and kind of thuggish that Putin is, he is elected. The people don't want to overthrow him. He is a gangster, and the elections are pretty iffy in Russia, but it's not like his people don't respect him and want him in the position of their leader. I don't have any problems with Russia. I just probably wouldn't want to visit. It probably wouldn't be in my top 10 just because it's so goddamn cold, and I can't think of any Russian cuisine that I would be. I think we had a Russian guy on the podcast one time, and he was like, "Oh, you must try the borscht. We have very good borscht in Russia." And I was like, that sounds like the least appetizing meal that I've ever heard of. Borscht. It sounds less like a meal and more like the sound you would make when the meal comes back up. Borscht. It didn't sound very appetizing to me. But they have they're hard drinkers, which I appreciate. I like their hats. Um, I think Khabib Nurmagomedov is a bad motherfucker. Actually, I saw Khabib one time at an Olive Garden in L.A. and he was just sitting by himself in the corner, um, looking all shy and shit. And I was like, "Oh, what's up, Khabib Nurmagomedov?" And he was like, "Oh my God, you pronounced my name right. You're the only one." He beat the shit out of Conor McGregor. That was it was pretty damn impressive. I thought he would probably win against Conor because anytime you got a super elite wrestler like that versus a good striker, I mean, you gotta go with the wrestler because there's so much more margin for error when you're just grappling and trying to get somebody to the ground versus like trying to land that perfectly timed pinpoint punch. But yeah, Connor didn't look like his normal bouncy self in that fight either. He looked a little gun shy, and wrestling will do that to you. You got to be wary of the wrestling. That's why Khabib was able to hit that overhand right on him, pretending like he was going to shoot, and then coming over the top with that right hand. It was pretty wicked, man. He's a scary dude. He's got those dead shark eyes. They look in the camera anytime. Just tell me location. We can do this anytime. George Carlin called it when he said, "You notice how everywhere they always have different hats. MAGA hats versus pussy hats." Yeah, I loved that in his 92 Jammin' in New York special. He opened up with that big piece on the Gulf War and war in general, about how it's just generally a bunch of prick waving guys standing in a field waving their pricks, and how all the bombs are shaped like dicks, and you know, George Bush getting threatened by his dick size, and yeah, George was tremendous. That's what I don't see a lot of comedians doing anymore. I don't. It must be the PC mob that's kind of scaring people into a shell here, because you don't really see comedians doing a lot to speak truth to power now. Because it's weird that like the people that used to be quote unquote victims and under the more traditionally like right wing regimes, and the country was way more religious, and the religious right had way more political swing back in the day. So the kind of underdogs were the leftists, the LGBT, and the and women, but it's kind of almost flipped where they have so much social pull that they have almost become the new power structure through social media and through the propaganda of public schools and universities and mainstream media. It's kind of inverted to where the people that used to be quote unquote oppressed are now the oppressors, and the only people that can be openly demonized now are straight white males. And we're supposed to be the ones with all the power, but you can openly say how horrible and what pieces of shit we are, and nobody argues with you. So like speaking truth to power now seems to be, going against the SJW narrative, going against the leftist communists in the universities and in Hollywood and in and on campuses, and going against that narrative seems to be speaking truth to power, because that's the only thing that could legitimately get you like deplatformed, or that's the only thing that has repercussions. That's where you look for where the power is. Who can you not criticize? Who are there major repercussions for criticizing? Like Kevin Hart just got axed from hosting the Oscars for making gay jokes 10 years ago. But it's like gay people are supposed to be oppressed or something. I definitely wouldn't agree, or I would agree that things are progressing in general in terms of how violence is going down, and you know, the average lifestyle of even a lower class, like I'm a poor person. I make like less than 30,000 a year, probably less than 25,000 a year, but I live like a 14th century king. Okay. You know, the grocery store is always stocked. It has, you know, a lot of discounts. You know, I have electricity and smartphones, and I can come on here and talk to you guys. I have the internet. I live way better than a 14th century king, as far as standard of living. So no complaints on that level. It's just, you know, the threat that it might all come down because some idiots don't understand how economically unfeasible communism is, and how precarious of a financial situation we are in because of the ineptitude of government running up the debts that we have now. That's the biggest threat. And life is so good now, that's why it's a big threat, because we want to preserve this, you know, not only for ourselves, but for future generations. Archer says, because 100 years ago, all this political heat would have caused a civil war, like a real war. Yeah, the war is on social media, which is great. Nobody's getting drafted into a physical war. You know, thankfully Hillary didn't win, or she probably would have reinstituted the draft specifically for fucking straight white males to go and fight a war in Russia. And so we delightfully avoided that disaster. So there's no draft, you know, military's voluntary. If you're transgender, you can sign up for the military. It doesn't matter what genitalia you have there, or you might not even have any genitalia. You could just have the Ken doll flesh wall situation going on, and you can be on the front lines, dude. That's the beauty of the modern world. A king would blow you just for one roll of your toilet paper. Yeah, dude. Yeah, I got moist baby wipe towelettes in there. All right, my asshole is sparkling clean. Okay, my drinking water is filtered. I do have to have, unfortunately, a filter pitcher to filter my water, because, you know, if I have any complaints, it's that if I just drink water straight out of the tap, I may or may not have holes in my brain from the fluoride that they've added to keep my teeth nice and clean. So I don't know what to think about fluoride, dude. It's weird that, you know, there's fluoride in the drinking water. It's weird that there's aspartame in every single pack of gum you try to get. I got pristine choppers, except for my bottom ones. Bottom ones are a little crooked, you know. But we takes care of them, baby. I gotta have my wet wipes. It's number one. I gotta have wet wipes. I can't just use dry paper. I'm not, you know, a Neanderthal here, ladies and gentlemen. And I have to have my floss picks, and they gotta be the right floss picks, and they gotta have strong thread to them. Okay, so I can get in between those choppers and feel really, really cleaned up. Because if you're just going only toothbrush only, I mean, I have floss picks and an electric toothbrush. I go over above and beyond. Okay, because tooth problems are a motherfucker. I don't want to ever have to go back to the dentist if I don't need to. I've been pretty lucky with that though. I feel bad for like some of these British people who are just born with horrifically fucked up teeth, and then you got to deal with it. You know, that's rough, man. I'm glad I was born with some decent teeth. I didn't have to have some mass fucking wire situation. You know, I just got a little crooked keyboard on the bottom row, but it's all good. Oh, you're saying sodium fluoride is to keep your pipes from clogging because it's an acid? Interesting. Ooh, that's very interesting. I need to tell the government I don't need that. I got a goddamn garbage disposal. I handle that. Anything that goes down my pipes, that's not getting clogged at all, baby. We're keeping it running smooth. Yeah, I wanted to talk about this little sketch idea that me and Kevin Bennett came up with a while ago, but when we were kicking it around the idea of doing it, and Igor got a little sensitive about it and was like, I don't know if that's such a good idea. But the general premise of the sketch is there's two like SJW friends who hate white people, and they're getting ready to they drop acid together, and they both have this collective hallucination that they live in a world without white people. And so I guess it would be me and Kevin Bennett playing the SJW. So like, I don't know. I guess we would be the only white people left in the planet, and so I don't know. We would have to find some ethnically diverse actors there to play the other parts. But I just think it's a hilarious concept of the SJWs thinking that a world without white people is going to be great, and then they get there and there's like no cars and no electricity and no smartphones and no internet. And it's essentially like the Stone Age because white people haven't made these scientific advancements that they get no credit for. And there's just, you know, there's no roads, there's just slavery everywhere, and it's just like a horrific, you know, Mad Max scenario. The world without white people. I don't know how we would pull it off, but just that general premise makes me laugh. And Igor was like, I don't know, man, that's a little tough. I was like, I just think it's funny. Because you read Twitter and like these blue checkmark people who talk shit about white people all day, and you get the sense that that's the world that they would want to live in, that they would just want to, you know, have a final solution to the fucking straight white male problem that they perceive, and they ignore all the positive things that white Western European culture has provided to the world. We can't talk about any of that. You know, Socrates was a hack, is basically what I'm saying. Aristotle, fuck your mother. Nikola Tesla, fuck it. You know, what you do is have them thrown in jail with nothing but Aryan Brotherhood hard asses. It goes from there. Yeah, that would be a bad acid trip, I think. That would be, you know. Anybody watch the Golden Globes? I did not. I think they took place like less than a football field away from my apartment. I live right next to the Hollywood and Highland out here, where they do the Oscars. I think they do the Golden Globes out here too. But it was so weird. Did anybody see the they had that segment where they had these people come out and give the audience vaccines, which I guess they played as a joke. I don't know if they actually gave them vaccinations, but like flu shots, I think it was. You cannot get you better not get near me with a flu shot, dude. I don't want any of your. I understand the science behind learned immunity and giving you a small dose of the strain of flu virus that they predict is going to be extra strong in this next upcoming season. I understand all the science behind it. Learned immunity, get your immune system ready for it. No thanks. Okay. I don't trust your predictions. If you could predict things that well, you wouldn't be given flu shots. You'd be day trading in the stock market, making a fortune. So you can keep your viruses, and I'll just eat my vegetables. How about that? I'll go to the gym and eat my vegetables, and I'll be fine. I'm not going to get polio because I don't let you shoot me up with live viruses to help my immune system. I drink every night. That's good enough for my immune system. I'm an anti-vaxxer, ladies and gentlemen. The pinnacle of conspiracy theorist-ism. He's an anti-vaxxer. What an idiot. Yeah, I'm not going to let... when I have a kid, too, I'm not going to let them shoot them up with the 12 different vaccines they want to do all at once and have my kid doing math problems at 3 because he's autistic. No math problems, okay? You're going to play sports. There's no autistic kids that are good at sports. It's bullshit. There's no vaccines. You're going to get the flu and you're going to play basketball, goddammit. Archer says, you know what I want to do is have 2 segregated sets of kids. And let's see who becomes the best class by the time they're 18. The pampered babies and the ones who have it harder. Yeah, it's weird. You got to have that balance of like, you don't want your kid to have a hard, trauma-filled life, but when there are certain kind of challenges that help you develop character, so I feel like you got to strike that balance of like setting challenges for your kid to overcome and not being helicopter parent. Like I feel like I was helicopter parented a little much. So I had to kind of distance myself from my family, and because I felt it that I was getting pretty soft. Like in my late teens, I hadn't really like worked hard to accomplish anything, and I didn't really have a lot of drive. So I had to like kind of separate from my family a little bit, and I went and lived with some of my friends, and like because my parents didn't want me smoking weed. That's what it was over at the time. But I developed this skill for playing online poker, and I realized how hard I had to work to get better at playing poker. And that was kind of my entry into like, oh, I can use this mechanism that I did to get better at playing poker. I can use that same thing to get better at comedy, get better at writing screenplays, and whatever I want to apply myself to, I can use that mechanism to get better. I need to go drink of water here. Excuse me. But yeah, you got to set up strategic challenges for your kid to overcome, and so they can develop some character. Practically raised myself, Archer says. The first bed I ever slept in was 12 years old, and I'm the one who bought it. God damn. That's pretty hardcore, dude. Well, that's something to be proud of that you made it through it. You know, I was lower middle class. My family's lower middle class, so we never really had a bunch of money or anything, but my parents are so, that's one thing. They're I give them all the credit in the world because they were just super devoted to making things easier for me and my sister. So we never went hungry or went without basically anything, even though we never really had money. Um, we always made it work somehow. Even to the point where I was a little bit spoiled at a certain point. Damn, slept out in a tent because your house was a meth lab. Archer grew up in fucking Breaking Bad, ladies and gentlemen. That's fucking rough, bro. Yeah, my parents would drink beer here and there, but they weren't into any hard shit. That's pretty fucked up, man. But kudos for making it through that bullshit. It'll only make you stronger. I've had to have like self-imposed challenges. I've had to I could have just drifted off into a pretty easy existence and just gotten a job in my hometown and kind of just stayed around my family. But I wanted something bigger and better in my life, so you know I had to set goals and make challenges for myself and keep that fire inside me to push and get better at everything I'm doing. And once I realized how rewarding that is, like all the reward systems get clicked on in your head when you're like pushing yourself to accomplish something you didn't think you could do. And I'm coming out to LA and I'm having to be roommates with crazy people and and having to live out of my car and like all this shit. And I'm going up on stage every night trying to get better, and I'm having terrible sets, and I have a great set, and then it's like never ending, but it's like it feeds itself once you keep committing to it. It's super rewarding. So I wouldn't change a thing about it so far. But yeah, you gotta those challenges either get imposed upon you or you make them yourself. And either way, you're gonna build up some character along the way. Archer says, what made me strong is the bullying. I was poor and I lived in Utah with all these snooty Mormon kids. The bullying got to the point of almost taking my life. Yeah, that's my sister had to deal with that really bad. She was bullied in school, and it's tough because she got labeled as kind of like special needs which I don't think she is. I think she has a very specific type of intelligence. She's really creative, and she's trying to make graphic novels right now. But she would get put in these remedial classes, and so that made an obvious target on her to be made fun of. And I had a little bit of that, but I developed like I don't know. I did it with a sense of humor. Like, if I couldn't get people to like me just for me, or if they were like making fun of me or trying to fuck with me, I would like fuck with them back and try to make them laugh. And that was my number one go-to to make friends. And so I just became like the funny guy. I was never the party guy. I was like in school, if I was sitting next to you in class, I was gonna make you laugh. So that was my go-to thing. Archer says this black girl in class threw a house brick at the back of my head, almost killed me, and fractured my skull. God damn. Yeah, some of them hardcore sisters out there. Holy shit. She was probably aggravated. She's the only black chick in Utah. That's fucked up though, man. I got in a handful of fights growing up, and one of them was with a wrestler. And you never want to get in a fight with a wrestler, man, because they just have that control. They get you, and it's just nothing you can do. He had both of my wrists locked up and punched me in the face at the same time. I'm like, bruh, where did your third arm come from? But, you know, the teachers broke it up and we both got suspended and shit. I'm like, I didn't even get a punch in, but I didn't get fucked up too bad. Yeah, the most fucked up I ever got was probably this right here when I flew off the front of my bike and I tore my chin off of my skull riding my bike down a slope into a concrete ditch, and I just went over my handlebars and landed chin first in the concrete ditch, and my chin was just hanging down, and freaked the fuck out of my mom when I walked into my house and there was blood all over my shirt. I was like, Mom, I was like delirious, and me and my homie Trey were laughing about it. When we walked in, I was like, Mom, I murdered somebody, you know, terrible. My dad was super just on it, looking at it, investigating it. He was like, okay, we need to go to the emergency room. And my mom was like, oh my God, freaking out. And I remember sitting in the emergency room just holding the fucking, the gauze up on my chin and watching Conan O'Brien and just still being in that delirious state, you know. Having to sit in the waiting room at the emergency room. Archer said, no, there's a lot of black people in Utah, a lot. Because a lot of them come from LA trying to get out of the hood. That's interesting. I didn't know nothing about that. Yeah, I've been really lucky with injuries. I don't think I've really broken a bone. I sprained the shit out of my left ankle so many times. I got like a little gash on my head that lasted when I pump faked a motherfucker in basketball and he jumped and I jumped and went to shoot a layup and his chin came straight down on my fucking head and blood was like trickling down my head. That happened. I think I might have broke my nose subtly. Because it's definitely crooked now. It didn't used to be like this, but I think, you know, I caught an outlet pass in a basketball game and I turned around to go down court and there was a dude just right here that I didn't see and I turned and crunched my nose, and I think that's what made it slope off to the side like it does now. Raised in that Utah ghetto, son. Damn. Hardcore Utah, baby. All right, ladies and gentlemen. Well, tonight's been fun, but I probably should wrap it up before I drink too much wine because I think I wanted to go up to the gym late night and get a little pump in. And, you know, get a little bit of the day's frustrations worked out of the system there. And I'm trying to get some big traps here on the podcast. Pretty soon I'll be, welcome to the Federal Outrage stream. It's your Chancellor here. Massive traps. Outrageously massive traps here on the podcast. And, you know, you don't want to fuck with Utah because they have to prove they ain't a pussy. Yeah. Yeah, dude. Utah was definitely tough in the 90s. I mean, the Bulls, that was a tough out, man. They took the Bulls to 7 games, you know. Karl Malone and shit. You want to see some traps? Look at Karl Malone. That motherfucker right there swole up. Okay, the mailman was swole than a motherfucker. All right, Mr. Steal Your Girl out there playing that power forward. All right. And he'll be power forward talking to your girl at the bar top, okay? Except if he's playing Michael Jordan on Sunday. The mailman don't deliver on Sunday. I don't know. I could probably go a little longer. It's not quite 1 a.m. here yet on the West Coast. Oh, Gangland, Utah. Oh, damn. What is TCG? Archer was in that, he was up there Mormon gangbanging. You know. Yeah, why does Utah not have an NFL team? They love the shit out of their basketball team. You know, they got some college squads out there. Seems like a Utah football Tonga and Crip gang. Damn. Hardcore, son. Yeah. Yeah, I guess with your upbringing that would lead you into some into a little harder existence there because you gotta fucking scrap to get by. You know, that's pretty interesting right there, dude. Up there at that high altitude, that's some high altitude gangbanging, dude. You know, it's whatever gang has the best cardio. That's the one that comes out on top, I heard. Up at that elevation, dude. You doing the Crip walk at elevation? Dude. That takes some serious cardio. Yeah, that's good, man. You get hardened up. I'm trying to have a self-imposed hardening process out here. Scraping by on rent and going up and trying to make these sensitive vaginas out here laugh, you know. And speak the truth to power, ladies and gentlemen. Not giving a fuck. I sent out goddamn basically 10,000 emails today to all these people in Hollywood. Trying to get people to read my scripts and whatnot, and still a work in progress. I got correspondence with one manager dude, and he likes one of my scripts. It's a blaxploitation script called Panther Tale. But you know the subject matter has to deal with, you know, it's a lot of masculinity in there. There's a lot to do with the porn industry and whatnot, and it's kind of a sensitive time out here, ladies and gentlemen, for that kind of suggestive content. And so he really likes the script, the manager guy, but he's kind of hesitant to pass it up the line. With the current climate going on here. So a little disheartening, but you know, I'm going to stick to my guns and keep doing what I know is funny, and keep pushing the envelope out here, and we're going to make it happen. And I'm going to do it all with you, you lovely outragians out there. But yeah, fun hanging out on a Monday night. Good to be with y'all. I'll wrap it up for tonight. I'll get the last podcast posted up on the podcast apps. And yeah, at Nick Jordan himself on Instagram. Like the stream if you like it. Share it out. So hit the subscribe button if you haven't already, and we're gonna keep talking this shit, ladies and gentlemen. Streaming our way along. That's how it is. Yeah, man. Take your vaccines and listen to what Hollywood has to say to you. It's very important. And don't make any gay jokes because it's very hateful. Yeah, good chatting with you, Archer. Good to know a little bit more about you. You a hardcore motherfucker out there. Hardcore motherfucker in the mountains and shit. Out there shooting your motherfucking arrows. Shooting them straight, shooting them long. From the hip. All right, everybody. I'll catch y'all tomorrow. And have a beautiful rest of your night. I'm gonna go get some chin ups and dips in.